Welcome to Blue Dirt, the podcast that digs deep into the foundation of commercial real estate investing. Unlike most real estate shows that focus on deal making and market trends, Blue Dirt gets into the nuts and bolts of what truly builds long-term value, the building itself. We break down how to spot deferred maintenance before it costs you, why a solid preventative maintenance program is a game changer, and how triple net leases can maximize your investment returns. We'll also explore the importance of strong landlord-tenant relationships and how they drive stability and growth in your portfolio. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just getting started, Blue Dirt gives you the practical knowledge to make smarter, more profitable decisions in commercial real estate. It's time to get your hands dirty and build value from the ground up. Let's dig in. Welcome to Blue Dirt, where even idiots can make a killing in commercial real estate. I'm Michael Caro with SVN Southland Commercial Real Estate, and I'm joined by
Don Redhead with Blue Commercial Properties.
Fantastic. Well, today we talked a couple weeks ago about one of our other projects that we just put under contract, and we wanted to give you an update on that. It's about a 20,000 square foot warehouse property. And so we're in the middle of due diligence, and due diligence is just probably a nice way to say that we are in our inspection period where you go through the process of inspecting the property. And so Don does a phenomenal job with the physical structure, and then I typically handle the other things such as lending, environmental survey, appraisals, things of that nature. And so we thought we'd talk a little bit about each of our roles within that process so you can at least understand where we're at. And then we're also going to chat about some of the challenges that we've run into and how we plan to overcome them. So, Don, do you want to talk about the physical asset first to get us started?
Yeah, that sounds great. Obviously, found this online. Let me move this a little closer. Does that sound better?
Oh my God, it's unbelievable.
So much better. Obviously, you conduct kind of your initial site visit based on your experience is kind of drive obviously your understanding of the asset. Even with a great understanding, because there's certain elements that I feel like as I keep doing it, I get a little bit smarter, right? But I was talking to somebody this morning, even though I've identified issues or what I believe to be issues, I've brought people in that actually know.
Right.
That truly verify. So as you're walking through, we're looking for, what are we going to have to do to get this in rentable condition? Maybe it is already in rentable condition, but what is the budget that we need to put together to actually get this thing, leased up? So we're looking at the roof, we're looking at the mechanical, we're looking at electrical, we're looking at plumbing, we're looking at the grounds, the structure.
Well, let's slow it down for a second. So when we talk about rentable condition for us, this building is currently occupied by a tenant right now, by the owner who's selling and downsizing. So it's absolutely in rentable condition right now. But what we focus on is, as investors, we don't know who the ultimate tenant is going to be. And what we have learned is women, regardless of the asset class, drive a lot of the decision making, or at the very least, the veto vote. And so one of the things that we do, most buildings, and this is a warehouse, has an office component. So one of the things that we really like to focus on is when we walk people through, we want the office not to feel like a lot of construction or warehouse type offices are really geared for greasy hands and hardworking blue collar guys that don't really care about the softness of a space. We have found that with the veto vote of women, if we can win them over, the guys don't care for the most part. And so we really want the office to be a wonderful, comfortable environment for especially our women. And so whether they're the owners or whether they're the office staff, it doesn't matter. If they feel good, everybody else would feel good. So Don, talk a little bit about what condition the office is in and where we want to take it.
Yeah, I mean, and based on your description, you can kind of draw some pretty good conclusions of what this office looks like, right? It's manufacturing. It's pretty greasy. It's pretty old. It's dated. It has some unique characteristics. It has a terrazzo, floor that looks cool.
Well, stop there. So the terrazzo floor, I think, is something that's really, really interesting. They don't really do them anymore. They're super expensive if you were to do them today. And so in part of the areas, it has this terrazzo, but most of it's covered with this old grimy carpet, which we plan on pulling up. And the glue, the adhesive, it's probably going to be the biggest bearer. But then we'll go in and polish this terrazzo, and it's gonna look spectacular. It's gonna be a nice highlight in this very old, dingy property. There's also a lot of ply. What's it called? Not plywood.
It's almost like a siding that they use,
paneling.
Like paneling.
Yeah. So dingy paneling. It looks okay, but
yeah, it looks exactly how you would think, right? It's just dated. It's old. There's exposed electrical. It was what a growing business in a light manufacturing type facility would do.
Right.
The people there aren't picky. It's owner occupied. You will get when an owner occupied building is being lived in and worked in, there's a little bit more latitude that they can get away with in terms of discomfort for the tenant. Because it's them, they're
right.
They're employees.
But the professional term is the property is a little janky. Okay, that's the professional commercial real estate term that is applied to this property.
Correct. Yes. Janky for the word for the day.
That's right.
But yeah, it's just dated. It's been worked hard. So now what we're going to do is go in, and you don't need to do a tremendous amount, but what you really need to do is spend the right dollars in the right locations. I.e. being the break room, the restrooms, and kind of the reception area that is going to be the face of the business. If you're going to spend any money, that's where you need to spend it, because they may modify a lot of the layout for maybe the real user that comes in and moves in. So you also don't want to spend too much money that could ultimately be ripped out. If you actually make the break area nice, you make the restrooms nice, you make the reception nice, they may modify it a little bit. But if you go in and we just redo all the floor throughout the whole building, as an example,
with a different floor, like an LVP or tile or something like that,
and they may come in and go, "Hey, we actually need walls here, here, and here." So now you're starting to have to rip out things that you have done. You may need to redo ceiling grids. You may need to redo lighting plans, fire suppression.
But we've identified that the floor plan is fine the way it is.
Yep.
It's a 2-story office portion of this warehouse. So we'll go in, we'll put our normal color scheme in. It'll be light, bright. The flooring is going to be a highlight for us. We will love on the restrooms. We'll really spend more money in the break area, making sure that it looks really good. Because
it has a cool table already.
It has a cool table, and we're going to rehab that. And so we're just going to make sure that it's, and the second floor.
I think we decided we're not going to do anything.
We're going to leave the paneling because, listen, when you have the example of the first floor that already looks great, if they go upstairs and they're like, hey, listen, we want this, that, hey, they know what the first floor looks like. We can say, no problem. We'll redo the second floor the same that we did the first floor. So we already have that good example. They may go up. They may be the size of company that won't even use the second floor office. So that's why we're not going to invest any money. We'll clean it up. But we're not going to. We're not even going to redo this old flooring in there, because we may get a tenant that never goes up there, and they may use it as storage as opposed to office space.
Because there's no reason to waste that money.
Exactly. So that's kind of the office environment, and that's great for showings, right? Just like we don't do any residential, but as I imagine, residential is an emotion-based decision for many people, and so going into this office where they're going to work, spend more time in this office than they probably are going to be at home. We want that to be a really inviting atmosphere. And if we can make that an inviting atmosphere for them, then the likelihood of them saying yes to the space goes up if the rest of the space works. So now that's the office. That's kind of our mindset and focus on most of our properties. Correct. Now, Don, dive into the rest of the facility, because there's other ugly parts of the building that, we could talk about the lighting, some of the metal work that we want to do, the roll-up door, things of that nature.
Yeah, there's the benefit at this property is it's not going to take a lot. There's a few little areas that just don't show very well that, we'll soft wash the entire building, put fresh paint on it, The roof is new, so all the trim metal around it already looks good. The lighting in most of the warehouse is actually relatively new, so that looks fine. Inside, we may even actually soft wash the inside of the brick because when they were doing some manufacturing, it's dirtied it up.
Significant buildup of grime and junk and stuff like that.
So the next thing that's actually rather significant at this one, because of the size of the parcel, is the landscaping. There's a lot of old trees, dead trees, just brush, kind of undergrowth. So we'll go through, clean that up.
And by the way, the quote for the landscaping cleanup was about 15 grand.
About 15. Yeah.
So it wasn't a cheap, but it's also a very large property. It's 2.3 acres. And so, but it's janky all over, not just on the inside of that office.
And then the rest of it, there's a couple metal buildings that are on there that, I think one we're going to sell, right? It's more of it's something modular that you'd buy and just set on a property. The other one that they use for powder coating, we'll put a new roof on that.
And we probably will reskin that one as well.
Reskin that. It's always just and
it's not that expensive. I mean, if you're just going to buy metal, replace metal, it's pretty simple stuff. These are almost like large sheds.
Yeah.
In this case, and so much so that these, I'll use the term buildings, weren't even in the sales square footage. Now, the nice thing is that it does have concrete floor and it has electrical. Mm-hmm. So no plumbing, but so they're good quality shed structures that just need some love.
Yeah. And the real thing is, it's almost like the exercise you have to go through is almost create your wish list, your dream scenario. If you could get this place perfect, what would it look like? And then you really only have so much money, right? To get the desired return. So then you need just to go through each line item and be pretty methodical and say, hey, what is actually going to help me get this property leased up faster? You really need to keep some in reserves, right? If somebody shows up and says, hey, I need this dividing wall, I need another roll-up door, I need this to get the deal done, you need to have that in reserves. But you also need to go through and say, I got $100,000. I have $200,000 worth of work here. How do I bifurcate out what is ultimately going to showcase this in the best possible light and get somebody in there to lease it up as fast as possible?
Right. So that's a little bit about the building. Now, a couple things he didn't mention. Exterior lighting for us is really important. Kind of goes back to that safety and security scenario. We are really big on ensuring that our properties are well lit. And so on this particular building, we identified the south side needs 3 exterior lights. The west side of the building has 1. We need to add 2 more. The east side has none. We'll probably add 2 or 3 on that side. And then the front, we want this place to be illuminated really, really well. And again, it goes back to the safety and security of an asset. As far as the soft items, environmental financing and things of that nature. So your lender has 2 primary requirements, and I'll add a third that has to be in there as well. So they're gonna need, and they will order the appraisal. They also, in commercial properties, want an environmental report. And then, of course, you need a survey. The survey goes into a lot of different areas. So when we ordered the environmental work, there was a UST, an underground storage tank, at one point in history. It may go back 50 years, but it's going to show up on the report. The lender flagged this. We knew in advance. And this property also has some asbestos that was also called out on a report, which was fine. We knew it was there, but we're not going to touch it. We're not going to, as long as you don't disturb the asbestos, it's fine. It's encapsulated. You don't have to worry about it. But the moment you go and you renovate that portion of a building and you disturb it, then you have to handle it properly. So, but in this case, the UST was called out, and the lender's environmental review person said, no, I want something more. And they asked us to do, I had never heard of this. It was something like an RSRA, which we did. We paid $1,400 for that. And the findings came back low risk. And I guess the two findings are high risk or low risk. So fantastic, submitted that to the bank. Then the bank's environmental guy said, you know what, I'm still not, I don't believe that, which I've never seen before. We want a phase one. So we called the environmental company back. They're like, we don't understand why. It's really going to be the same result. However, it is a more invasive process in that they're going to go to the property. They're going to inspect the property. They're going to pull additional reports. So they went and did all that. We expect the phase one back. I expected it back yesterday, but maybe it'll come in today. And again, we fully expect it to come back with no further assessment. I call it no further action, but no further assessment is what they said. Will likely come back. We'll give that to the lender, and then hopefully we'll be fine. That was another $1,200 because we got some credit for getting the RSRA. I don't even know what the acronym is, so hopefully we'll be good there. But it was an extra step, an extra $1,200, and so on and so forth. So the appraisal. This is a bit faster of a contract than we normally have. That's what the seller negotiated. We feel like we got a good rate. In exchange, they wanted speed. So we're jumping through hoops faster than we normally would. And so that's why we're having to just order everything and just go full blitzkrieg on this thing. So with that, we've got the survey, already got that back, and the appraisal. So what I like to do with my appraisals is in this case, because I needed speed, I put together as many comps that I could find for this asset class. Because I'm in commercial real estate myself, I have access to all of the same properties that the appraiser has. So in an effort to help them, I just give them a whole bunch of appraisals, or not appraisals, but comps, and they can choose to use them or choose not to use them. It doesn't, I'm just trying to make their job easier. Selfishly, if I can make their job easier, then I might be able to get my appraisal back faster. In this case, I needed it quicker. It was actually due today, and they were able to get it to us 2 days ago. So they never do it early, but they were able to get it to us on Tuesday. When I say to us, to the bank, I have no idea what the appraisal says, and the bank won't tell us until it goes through their review process, which takes a few days because our due diligence expires in 6 days on the 18th. And so we are just, going full tilt forward to make this thing happen. So
the appraisal says exactly what you're asking for.
we always hope it does. So, but the way we structure a deal financially is if we buy it for one price and we have a renovation budget in there, and so I'm going to use easy numbers. Let's say we buy something for $1 million and we need to put 20% down. Well, I don't want to put 20% of $1 million down. Let's say we need $200,000 in renovation. I want the 1 million plus the 200,000 equals 1.2 times 20% is $240,000, as opposed to putting 20% down on the million, which is 200,000 plus the renovation all out of pocket. Well, that's 400,000. 200 plus 200 equals 400. So we would rather pay 240 than 400 and then finance the rest. And so that's what we do on all of our deals. But the appraisal has to reflect that. And so they're going to do an as-is appraisal and as completed appraisal, meaning as completed after we do the renovation. So provided that appraisal comes back as completed of $1.2 million or greater, then we will get all that money from the bank as part of our loan package. So it makes it a lot easier and then requires less money out of pocket for us. So that's kind of where we are in the process. We have I've showed the property to a prospective tenant. They're too small. We run this risk, right? Because it's this 20,000 square foot building. I'm willing to split up the building, but I've got to get somebody that's a little bit larger to start us out versus smaller. Because if we find a tenant for the entire 20,000 square feet, but yet we leased out 4,000, we've just kind of hurt ourselves. So if I get somebody for 10,000 square feet or more, I'll do the deal automatically. If it's less than that, I guess we have to really take a pause and make sure that we're making the right decision. Maybe not 10,000, but I think if I found somebody for at least 8, I probably would do that deal. So that's a little bit about this active deal in process. We are pretty excited about this. It's been on the market for a while. The asking price was higher. They reduced it to 1.2 million, had good offers. But the key on this one is that we knew that the tenant, we knew that the owner, who is also the tenant, has already identified a new place and they're moving in March 1st. Well, this is February 12th. We got under contract about 20 days ago. And we lobbed in an offer and we got under contract at $935,000. Pretty happy about that. On a price per square foot basis, it's pretty low. It's a little bit off on the numbers because we are not using the full square footage. We lopped off a big section of the second floor that's in the warehouse, not the office, but the second floor that's in the warehouse that we don't see a lot of value in. And most of the clients that we work with won't see value in that either. So we underwrote this deal closer to 15,500 square feet versus 20,000 square feet. And the numbers work. And so if the numbers work at the low square footage and we happen to lease up the entire square footage, then it's also a win. This also didn't include a 1,200 square foot warehouse that's out in the yard, as well as 300 linear feet of additional covered storage space with concrete flooring. So we think that there's significant upside on this asset, and we're going to keep you posted in the future as to how this asset goes. We did underwrite it with 1 year of vacancy. Typically, we don't do that much, but the industrial market seems to have softened in our area. I think it's temporary, but I didn't want to underwrite it with a quicker lease up because I wasn't sure. I'd rather be ultra conservative, especially when I bring on investors. You know, in this case, we brought on a lot of our team members in our office, and there's nothing worse than to go back to them later and with a capital call, which nobody wants. At least they know that the money up front is likely all the money they're going to have to put in. And so the way we structure those loans is I put the loan in my name, and then they just can put in what they want and not be on the hook for the loan. So makes it a little bit easier, but it also motivates them to invest. Our goal is to make sure that everybody invests into commercial real estate. And so when we do this deal, especially in our in-house deals, we want everybody to have a seat at the table. So what am I missing, Don?
So you said industrial is light. Are you seeing any demand? Is it pretty consistent demand across all sizes? Are you seeing large square footage, more demand? Are you seeing, what are you seeing out there as far as?
So the last 3 or 4 months, a lot of my benchmark properties have not been getting any calls. I've got this one property that I've had over 10 years that I always consider it my benchmark property because even when it's 100% full, I get a lot of calls. And so it's been kind of a ghost town for the last 3 or 4 months. However, oddly enough, in the past week, and that's kind of how our business works. I mean, 1 week, it can go from quiet to 5 offers on the same property that's been vacant for 2 years. It's really interesting how it works, but it really was across all sizes. I mean, I have a 3,000 square foot warehouse that usually would lease up in weeks. It's been on the market for 8-9 months.
I was going to say 8 months.
Right. And so that's completely rare. I've got so it's all sizes, 7,500 square feet. I've got 54,000 square feet. I've got 20,000 square feet. I've got all different sizes that I've had almost no calls. However, in the past week, I've gotten calls on almost all these.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. What about your footprint kind of goes out a little bit farther? What about regionally as you go a little further west or east?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. So I have a warehouse, 2 warehouses one in Gulfport, Mississippi, one in Moss Point, Mississippi, which is outside of Biloxi. Again, very quiet, but now I've got 2 players looking at this 60,000 square foot place in Gulfport. And then I've got a 7,200 square foot industrial in Moss Point that I've also gotten some calls. Now, again, before I can do a deal, you got to get a call. So I'm excited just to get calls. It tells me there's people looking in the market. So that's the kind of the key. I've got something up outside of between Montgomery and Birmingham crickets. It's a small town called Clanton. Great town, but just nothing going on up there from a call volume standpoint for that asset.
And what kind of users? Is it anything specific?
No, it's across the board. One group is a file storage group. They're bidding on a government contract. Another group for the 60,000 square feet in Gulfport was for a hydration dry powder manufacturing, light manufacturing. So more of like a lab type feel. Mm-hmm. And so, just all over the board.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was some trend or something that was correlating each of these types.
Yeah. Well, the 54,000 square foot this week, I'm in conversations with a group that I'm going to say repairs large engines for like wind turbines and things like that. So they need these are pretty massive players. And so they need a 50,000 square foot facility. So I'm in conversation with them right now. So we'll see. I mean, it's all over the board. And, we live in a nice aerospace corridor, and we have a lot of Department of Defense manufacturing that's about to start in our area. So we're going to see all the ancillary manufacturing for those facilities. But we do a lot of aerospace tech, and now we're going to be entering into some DoD, Department of Defense manufacturing here in Pensacola as well.
That's exciting. Well, hopefully they need this building.
And that would be great. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Blue Dirt Podcast, where even idiots can make a killing in commercial real estate. That's a wrap for this episode of Blue Dirt. We're here to help you build smarter, invest wiser, and create long-term value in commercial real estate, one solid foundation at a time. If you found today's insights useful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you know somebody who could benefit from these discussions, share Blue Dirt with them. Got questions or topics you'd like us to cover? Reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep digging deep, stay sharp, and remember, real value is built from the ground up. See you on the next episode.